Business Network.
Governor Jan Brewer is standing firm to protect Arizona even after the federal government says that they're taking her to court over her state's new immigration law. But it's not a battle she's fighting alone. California Congressman Brian Bilbray, chairman of the Immigration Reform Caucus, had some tough words in response to the lawsuit. He says it's time to roll up our sleeves and get to work on real reform. When President Obama wants to sit down with the Immigration Reform Caucus to develop a strategy on moving forward, we'll be ready to work with him. Congressman Bilbray joins me now. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning, Alisyn.
In your statement, you say it's time to roll up our sleeves, and when the president's ready to work, we'll work with him. What would you say to the president if you both sat down together?
Well, first I'd say the president pointed out all the groups that he's met with and said, oh, I'll meet with everybody. But the only groups he's met with is those that are pushing the amnesty proposal rather than working with the bipartisan effort at the Immigration Reform Caucus that includes Democrats and Republicans who say, look, we've got ways we can address this. Let's talk about some interior enforcement. Let's talk about having all employers use a computer to make sure names and Social Security numbers match. I tell the president, why don't we pick up Sylvester Reyes's bill, the former Border Patrol agent who's a Democratic congressman from El Paso, and upgrade the Social Security card for the first time since 1937? How can we tell the American people we really care when we don't do common sense things like that? Why don't we get Keith Shuler's bill, which will not only require that all employers use E-Verify, but also eliminates the tax deduction for employers who hire illegals, something that I think any American would say ought to be done. But what we really need to do is stop finding excuses to do nothing and stop allowing people to hold this nation hostage for another amnesty scheme like the mistake we made in '86.
As you know, Arizona was supposed to host the 28th annual U.S.-Mexico Borders Governors Conference, but Governor Brewer just canceled it. Was that the right thing to do?
Well, I think that the governor was responding to the fact that the Mexican governors unanimously said they were going to boycott it. I think that we should all be talking about it. I just got back from a meeting with the Mexican Congress down in Campeche, and frankly, their attitude was that somehow they had a right to impose on us. And let me remind you, this lawsuit that the Obama administration has filed is following up on a lawsuit and supporting the Mexican government's lawsuit against Arizona. And this is the part that kind of outrages me as somebody that's worked with Mexico for over 30 years, that our administration is following the lead of a foreign government in attacking one of our sovereign states. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Arizona is standing up and fighting the war at the border that the American federal government ought to be doing. And Mexico's attacking their best friend on this. That's Arizona's being willing to take on those smugglers that are smuggling drugs and aliens north, kidnapping people in Tucson to the point that that is the kidnap capital of America, and stopping the guns from going south with all the drug money. And it's absolutely absurd. You know, the crime that Arizona committed is they're doing something. They're trying to address the issue. And the Obama administration in their lawsuit basically says, we're against anybody doing anything because we have the right to do nothing. And they've actually, in their bill, says, we reserve the right not to enforce the law. And I think that the American people ought to read this lawsuit. Remember, this lawsuit was filed very late. The Obama administration, including the Attorney General Holder, opposed the bill before they even had the decency to read it. It went 3 weeks of them bashing Arizona before they even admitted that they hadn't quite read it yet. And that's the kind of attitude that we've got to really say, look, Mr. Obama, we expected some good change, not this kind of change.
Well, meanwhile, Governor Schwarzenegger and Governor Richardson are offering to host that conference, but elsewhere. Listen to what Governor Richardson has to say about that.
Arizona took some very negative actions by passing and signing that law, and I think this is politics. They're going to have to take this, and unfortunately it's happened this way, but we border governors feel we need to talk. We need to discuss issues. We need to discuss our differences. So the border conference will happen, and we hope Governor Brewer attends, but if she chooses not to, that's fine.
We only have a few seconds left, Congressman. Is that fair?
No, I think it's not fair. I think that if the governors want to really do something to address the issue, let them start implementing E-Verify the way Arizona did 2 years ago. If we had required all employers to check across this country, Arizona would not be in crisis. Remember, the same people attacking Arizona attacked us in San Diego when we proposed building the border fence. Then they said it wouldn't work and it was punitive. And the fact is, it's worked so well that San Diego's much more secure, and the problem shifted into Arizona's backyard.
All right, Congressman Brian Bilbray, thanks so much for coming on this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Alisyn. I appreciate the privilege.